So today's topic for discussion is lasing conditions or threshold conditions. To continue our discussion, the operational aspect of the laser, the main key point is there the population inversion because it may or may not have any substrate layer to provide the continuous supply of the majority carriers to be injected in the top layers. So whenever I use the word top or bottom layer, it concerned with the three layers of the heterojunction along with the middle layer. In the LED, it corresponds to the core along with the two surrounding claddings, and in laser, it corresponds to the metal cavity along with the surrounding layers. So lasing condition means so the lasing spot what we have got yesterday. Yesterday we have discussed this one. So here, if you look at this one, so this is the lasing spot from which we are getting the out, laser output. So laser long form is light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. So how we are getting this point? Theoretically, yesterday discussed that the rough surface of the cavity in case of the Fabry-Perot cavity resonator or in case of DAB laser, it is a diffraction grating, that is a corrugated feedback grating. That's what is known as a feedback. It is so we have seen here. Your light ray will be got reflected back, fed back. This corrugated structure will be kept above the active region and leading to the efficient recombination in the active region and or generation of the photons. That is a laser output what we are getting from here. And also we have seen how it is going to support single mode in case of DAB or multiple modes in case of Fabry-Perot cavity. So what are the suitable conditions to achieve this coherent light to be coming out, emerging out from this laser? Or in other words, we are now looking more deeply towards how the light amplification and stimulated emission is going to take place. Two things are there here. One is stimulated emission, that is the phenomena working behind this laser diode. And second thing is the light amplification. So to look at what are the conditions which will exist for this lasing spot to occur. So to decide the lasing conditions and the resonant frequencies or the modes, okay, the peaks what we have got yesterday, expressing the electromagnetic wave propagation in the longitudinal direction in terms of electric field phasor is given by like this. We are just looking at some mathematical aspects here. No any kind of derivation as such is there. We have to know the equations and know their significance. That only we have to explain. So let us first try to understand what we mean by lasing here. Lasing is the condition at which the light amplification becomes possible in the laser diode. Means before this condition will occur, till that stimulated emission is occurring. And suddenly what will happen so that amplification will start taking place. So that condition at which this light amplification of the that is coming from the stimulated emission start taking place, that is known as a lasing condition. So for this discussion of this lasing condition or threshold condition, we'll assume that uh, the resonant frequencies or the light ray which is propagating or generated by this laser, that is nothing but we can consider it in terms of the electromagnetic wave itself. Assume that it is propagating in the z direction, assuming that x and y will contain e and h field components, and in a z, that is a three-dimensional one, will contain the message signal. That is a phasor. So that can be represented by E of z comma t, that is our message signal in the direction of a z, as a function of the current, that is I of z, that is optical field intensity, intensity modulated wave, optical field intensity I of z, into e to the power of j omega t, that is optical radiation frequency, minus beta z, that is a propagation constant. So the stimulated emission rate into a given mode. So here, for example, we are considering the message signal in the longitudinal direction. We will consider the longitudinal mode. Either it is a T or TM mode. Because yesterday we have seen so longitudinal, lateral, and transverse modes. Now we are considering for our discussion longitudinal mode. It may be either it will be a TE, electrical field phasor. We are considering TE mode in the direction of Z. That is a longitudinal mode. TE longitudinal mode we are considering for the present discussion. So the stimulated emission rate into this given mode is proportional to the intensity of a radiation in that mode. That is actually governed by hv, with what energy hv, the electron. The hv corresponds to the energy of the electron with which it is falling and recombining with the holes in the valence matter. But it varies, dies out exponentially as the distance z increases. Means this could be given, that is a can be taken as a emission rate, stimulated emission rate, that depends on the radiation intensity provided by the photon energy hv of the electron with which it is going to take part in the recombination process. But with the increase in value of z, this energy, or its to extent it will recombine, take part in the recombination process, will go on exponentially decreasing. So that is given by I of z equal to I of 0, when say with the descent it is starting, just starting at z equal to 0. Exponential to the power, it is so to the power as a function of confinement factor we are giving here, to g, that will indicate confinement factor, that is fraction of the optical power in that active layer, as a function of hv, minus alpha dash. Alpha dash here it will be indicating effective absorption coefficient of the material in the optical path as a function of hv into z in the direction of a z. So this will give the I of z, it will be giving the stimulated emission rate for the particular mode. That is a multiplication of I of 0 initial optical field intensity or the current into e to the power of j omega t minus beta z. Omega t here it is represented in terms of confinement factor, means how much light energy is confined to the cavity in terms of the electron, for that is a photon energy hv, minus alpha dash, that is a absorption factor we have to subtract, because whatever the power that is confined to the cavity, so e to the power net power we want, optical power that is confined to the cavity or coming out from the active layer. Net means effective one. For that we have to subtract the absorption one from the power that is confined or coming out from the active layer. That's why minus sign we are using here. So moving forward, so therefore the lasing action occurs. So this total lasing action, just now we have made one statement that lasing is the condition at which amplification will start, just about to start, till that stimulated emission has occurred. Whatever the photon energy you got because of the stimulated emission, now it is about to be amplified. And this condition at which this thing is about to occur, that is light amplification, totally depends on, so this factor guys. That is a gain loss mechanism, because we have discussed this one yesterday. So whatever the gain we are getting, or the peak values or the wavelengths of the particular modes which are contributing for the effective recombination and the effect, that is a active region, are going to compensate for some of the wavelengths or modes, their wavelengths which will be lost, which are happening below this threshold. Gain loss mechanism is going to play a very important role in lasing condition to be decided. Means we want to know when this light amplification is going to occur. That is decided by this gain loss mechanism of the laser. So therefore, the lasing action occurs when the gain of multiple guided modes is sufficient to exceed the optical loss during one round trip through the cavity. One round trip means move and come back between two reflecting mirrors which are separated by L. One ray will go and come back means it is 2L. Okay. During this one round trip, how many the protuberant wavelengths are effective wavelengths which will contributing for the lasing spot to occur, that will be considered uh, which are so strong that they are going to compensate for any of the modes or wavelengths which are falling below the threshold. Okay. So the gain of guided modes is sufficient to compensate for the loss during one round trip, Z equal to 2L. So that is the condition which is sufficient to form this lasing action or light amplification to begin. Okay. So lasing action will, we can say that clearly, if one mode or one wavelength between the two reflecting mirrors of the cavity separated by L will go and come back, transversing a total distance of 2L. If they will finding more strong or appears to provide more gain and going to compensate for any of the few modes which are not emerging out during this one round trip time, that is a 2L, then we can say your light amplification is about to begin. So during this round trip, only fractions of R1 and R2 are the mirror reflectiveness. Differential, these things are happening because of differential reflection. For the reflection of light at the interface between two materials having refractive indices N1 and N2, the lasing condition is given by, for this round trip, 2L. So this one we have seen generally I of Z equal to I of 0 e to the power of 2G of HV minus absorption alpha dash of HV. Now Z for one round trip time will be replaced by 2L I of 0, considering the reflectiveness of the mirrors R1 and R2, because the gain will be decided. Gain means the dynamic behavior of the modes in the cavity. Now we have to look into the dynamic behavior of the modes which are contributing for the gain between the two reflective mirrors having the reflectivity of R1 and R2. It will depend on these two also. Exponential to the power of 2GHV minus this as usual. Means now uh, we are considering one round trip, that is a 2L. Also we are considering this one as a function of, as it is going to depend on reflectivity of the both the mirrors. Now at the lasing threshold, lasing condition we got this. By this we are able to get the lasing condition. Means with this condition our light amplification is about to start. It has just started. This one. Okay. Now when it has started, light amplification has now started. Okay. How long it will be remaining stable? Because it is a laser, light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. How long we get this steady rate of lasing spot? At the lasing threshold, the steady state oscillation takes place at the peak value. We will get the steady state oscillation. the magnitude and phase of the returned wave must be equal to those of the original wave. That is I of 2L equal to I of 0. That is amplitude. And phase is given by e to the power of whatever we have that will be giving you the phase. We'll make it to equal to 1 to indicate that it is a normalized one. So this above equation gives the information concerned to the resonant frequencies of the cavity resonator, Febvre period cavity resonator. The condition to just reach the lasing threshold is the point. So this one we have seen the condition at which just our lasing action has occurred. It has just begun. Now we have to look into the condition at which the lasing threshold will about to begin, or we are going to reach that point. So we'll reach that point at which the optical gain is equal to the total loss. This should be equal to this. So that is given by the condition, that is a tau g equal to alpha t, that is equal to given by alpha dash plus 1 by 2l Napier's logarithm of 1 by around r2. Means for a lasing to occur, the gain g should be greater than or equal to the gain threshold. It means that the pumping source, that is population inversion, that is the main source for the fabricated periodic cavity resonator, maintains the population inversion must be sufficiently strong to support or exceed the all energy consuming mechanisms within the lasing cavity. Means what he is telling, in other words, to sustain. Now your lasing action has occurred with I of 2L equal to I of 0 with this equation. In order to sustain this for a longer time, steady state oscillation, in order to maintain this oscillation for a longer time, it depends on totally on the population inversion. So it should be so strong, it can support strongly that is gain loss mechanism. Means it can support more to the gain and try to minimize the losses or the modes that we are getting below the threshold. That is given by this condition. Means with this condition, that's why he is telling optical gain should be equal to the total loss alpha t in the cavity, not this alpha dash absorption. He is telling this optical gain should be so high that it should start appearing very much less. That is possible with the strong support from the population inversion. By this only when the gain is very much greater than or equal to the gain threshold. So the mode that satisfies that condition reaches first, and the onset of that condition or it has just going to begin, and all the extra energy contributing into the laser for the growth of this particular mode will be made. So the relationship between the optical power and the diode drive current is given by this or explained by this graph. Initially you can say that how the laser diode drive current if you plot with respect to the optical output power. Initially it is acting like a LED. Your population inversion is not so strong enough. It takes some time. Initially your laser is supported by the spontaneous emission. It is resembling, its action is resembling the that of the LED. So in that case it is going to give you the wide spectral range and a beam width, that is a beta dash. As the time elapses, your stimulated emission will start contributing much with stronger support from the population inversion. So this LED kind of behavior in a laser diode we are observing because the population inversion to occur will take some time. Okay. So only when the population inversion strongly emerges after some time, the threshold current density, that is a stimulated emission JTH, will start going to appear to contributing much to the narrow spectral range or lasing action. We want more threshold current density. That is coming from the stronger population inversion. but that to occur will take some time. Okay, so two things are there. Initially, it will take some time to reach the condition at which your light amplification is just about to begin, just with the stimulated emission itself. After that, we need the help of the population inversion in order to make this factor more than this, so that we'll enter into the lasing condition from the LED condition. To jump from LED to the stimulated emission condition, stronger population inversion mechanism is required, because that is going to support much or gain loss mechanism of the laser. In order to jump from LED type mechanism to the uh, lasing lasing mechanism, that is a threshold mechanism, lasing condition mechanism, we want strong support of the population inversion, that is in turn is going to support the gain loss mechanism. So thereby we are going to minimize the modes which are falling below the threshold, and thereby boosting the modes falling beyond the threshold, because they are going to contributing much to the lasing mechanism. Okay, so the twofold way is there. As long as your population inversion is not strongly coming into picture, till that your laser is in the spontaneous mode only, it is not in the lasing mode, or we can say it is just uh, in the beginning of the lasing mode. Your lasing mode is totally in action only when your optical inversion, sorry, the population inversion will be completely coming into action. That is going to strongly supporting your gain loss mechanism of the laser. Okay, so this is all about the lasing condition or the thresholding condition, that what we observed, how it is going to concluding that how it is going to depend on population inversion at all. Next one we will see another important concept, laser diode rate equation. So what we are discussing, these two things are important today, very important parts in the module 2. Sorry, module 3. Lasing conditions, what are the conditions are responsible for the just lasing to occur and lasing to come in action. Next we'll see laser diode rate equation. So this is mainly concerned with the interaction between the photons and the electrons in the active region. In the LED we have discussed that in the LED we have discussed that in the recombination process, two fellows are actively taking part. One, the carriers which are radiated are also taking part. Another one, the carriers which are non-radiatively falling to the valence band also effectively taking part in the recombination than those of radiated carriers. Whereas in case of laser, it is an interaction between the photons and electrons in the active region. That is a captive region. The relationship between the optical output power and the diode drive current is decided by the this laser diode rate equation, and is in turn decided by the interaction between the photons and electrons in the captive or active region. For the PN junction diode, the carrier confinement region of depth D, if you assume, if the carrier confinement will exist for the depth of D, the rate equation is given by d pi of d pi by dt. Pi, it will indicate the number of photon. So it is giving the rate of change of the photons with respect to time, that is equal to, so the laser you can see it is a, because we have seen in the last graph, it is a combination of both spontaneous and stimulated emissions. Why? Because the population inverse will not come into action immediately, as long as when you just immediately begin with the operation of laser. Laser is fully in action only when population inversion will come into picture. Till that, it is acting like this. It is supported with the spontaneous emission itself. Means the interaction which is happening in the active region between the photons and electrons is the combination of the spontaneous emission, that is RSP. RSP it will indicate the spontaneous emission. SP it is spontaneous emission. Plus means this one. This one is happening plus RSP plus this one because of stimulated emission, that is CN pi. Okay. C is the constant of proportionality, N is the number of electrons, pi is the number of photons. Interaction between them, that is devoted to the or contributed by the stimulated emission. So we are adding these two because they are actively taking part in the gain function of the laser diode, that is going to compensate for the loss of the modes. That is in turn supported by both spontaneous emission and the population inversion, that is the stimulated emission. Remember, stimulated emission is in turn supported by the population inversion mechanism. Now we are going to subtract the absorption, that is a photon loss, that is a pi by 2ph. 2ph will indicate the can say the lifetime of the photons, 2ph, pi by 2ph. This much is acting like a absorption of the photons or photon loss. This should be subtracted from this one, that is going to give us the net interaction, or we can say uh, the net, we can say the laser what you are getting, net photons. So in terms, in other words, we can, what you can say, the stimulated emission means it will be indicating the source of photons from the stimulated emission, or in turn by the population inversion, plus spontaneous emission, the number of photons produced by the spontaneous emission, which are less in number. That's why it has been shown by the downward arrow. Okay. So then the plus the decay in the number of photons due to loss mechanism in the laser cavity, the modes which are falling below the threshold. So I written plus here because I am taking it, writing it as a decay. Plus decay means it is minus itself. Plus photon loss means loss we are getting. Mathematically we can write it as in terms of equation minus pi by 2ph. But in terms of the statements, it will be plus photon loss. Loss it is indicating decay, that is minus. In terms of equation use minus. But in terms of the vocabulary, it will be plus only because we are writing loss here. Here it will be decaying like that. So which governs the number of photons pi, and so this is what it will be giving the photons variation with respect to time. Okay, the photon confinement. Now electron confinement or variation with respect to t is given by J by QD, carrier injected because of the population inversion. Then both the things will now becoming minus. One is n by 2 sp, that is the number of the things electrons we are getting because of the spontaneous recombination. We don't want it because it is happening very much less. Minus stimulated emission, that is Cn pi. So this will be because we have to subtract the photons from this in order to get the net electrons behavior. This will be the net photons behavior. This will be giving you the net electrons behavior. So what is J by QD? Increase in electron concentration in the conduction band due to carrier injection by the photon, that is a population inversion. Last two terms concerned with the electron lost from the conduction band due to the both the emission times, spontaneous recombination and stimulated emission. We are going to lose them because they are falling and recombining in the active region. That is a valence band. So these two equations are important. In this way, how you have to explain these things first here. As such, we don't have any derivation. Simply you are putting the things here and explaining the things. This is important. Their significance we have to explain here. So laser diode rate equation is nothing but it is a relationship between the optical output power and the diode drive current. This one. Optical output power and the diode drive current. That is a combination of both spontaneous and stimulated emission phenomena. Or in other words, it is an interaction between the electrons and the photons. How? because as we have mentioned in this graph, that is a laser diode rate equation is the graph of that is the relationship between the laser diode drive current and the optical output power. As it is visible from this graph, it is comprising of both the phenomena, spontaneous and stimulated emission. Why? Because population inversion will be taking some time to come into action. Till that, spontaneous emission is happening. Later it will be combined with the stimulated emission. So that's why where the electron and photon interactions are happening here. Still, until the population inversion is going to lead to the stimulated emission, your spontaneous emission is happening. It is similar to the LED itself. Means still that spontaneous emission is there, and some electrons are falling and recombining in the active region, and recombination is happening as usual. So these things. That's where the electrons are going to play until stimulated emission will come into picture. Once stimulated emission will occur because of population inversion will become much stronger, then Cn pi will come into picture. Till that, no Cn pi. Okay, so that's what we want to separate out these two things. One concerned to the behavior of the photons, variation in the number of photons in the cavity, and second one will be giving you the variation in the number of concentration of the electrons with respect to the time that is in the cavity. Okay, so the number of photons are governed by the number of electrons. Equation 1 is supported, or number of photons is decided by the number of electrons. That is equation number 2. Okay, next, an expression for the output power is obtained by solving the above equations for the steady state condition, because we want a steady state steady laser light amplification. So by equating LHS of the above equations to 0, these two equations, left hand side if you make it to 0, so what else will get? Assuming spontaneous emission RSP is smaller in this equation, we are now I am discussing with respect to equation number 1. Steady state condition, this will become 0. We'll assume this one is negligible. Okay, and when pi is small, what will be left with? If pi is small, we left with only Cn here, and 1 by 2 pH. Here, pi is small means only 1 by 2 pH will take. RSP is negligible, we can scratch it. Pi also will take it very small in the beginning. So what is the meaning of this one, pi small? Cn pi, here pi small means pi number of photons what we are getting, because the stimulated emission are still less in number. Means we are still in the beginning of the stimulated emission. Still our population inversion is not coming to picture. Here also the photon loss, pi is small means photon loss is less. So what we left with this here? Cn minus 1 by 2 pH. It should be greater than or equal to 0. So for the steady state condition, so this one condition we are getting from the equation number 1. By making this left hand side 0, and RSP is negligible and pi is also very small. Why assume pi is very small? Because we are in the beginning of the stimulated emission process. Here n indicates it indicates that n must be increased, because photons are less. In order to increase the photons, we have to increase the photons. Electrons. Only when you increase the electrons, you will get more photons. That's what it is telling. It indicates that n must increase beyond the threshold value. Assume that nth for pi to increase, means photons to increase. By using equation number 1, this one, we are still with this only. This threshold value is expressed in terms of the threshold current JTH required to maintain the inversion level, that is n equal to nth in the steady state. Means it depends, it is going to decide indirectly the current density JTH provided by the population inversion at this threshold nth. NTH it will indicate the the peak or the timing at which your this population inversion is totally in action. Okay. So in the steady state, when the number of photons pi equal to zero, so what we are getting? So n by 2 sp, the lifetime of the carrier or the whatever you are getting in the spontaneous emission, n by 2 sp equal to jth by qt. This equation defines the current required to sustain excess electron density. Equation A will be giving us the current density that is required to maintain the sustain the uh, electron density coming from the population inversion in the laser. So next, finally, using both the equations, these equations, equation 1 and equation 2, the photon and electron rate equations in the steady state conditions at the lasing threshold can be obtained by making their left hand side, we have to make them 0 for steady state condition. We'll get new equations, equation number 3 and 4. Some notations are changing here with respect to the lasing threshold. NTH, maximum electron density we are getting the because of the population inversion is totally in action. NTH you can see here. Phi s it will indicate the steady state photon density now. Now adding about the equations and using equation number A. Equation number A is this one. For the term, this term, NTH by 2HB. So where this NTH by 2SP, so N by 2SP, replace this by JTH by QD and add these two. And solving for pi s gives the number of photons per unit volume. That is pi s. If you want, you can work it out. It's a very simple one. If you can't understand, you can use the WhatsApp group. I will put those steps in the WhatsApp group. So pi s, finally we are getting this new equation, that is the number of photons per unit volume that is required. So what we are observing here in this whole process, the steady state condition, we are taking the help of that one, steady state condition. We are trying to increase the n. By that we are got the increased number of photons in the steady state condition, pi s. That is a function of the lifetime of the carriers, depth of the cavity, q, the charge, j minus jth, the current densities, and spontaneous emission factors. The first term, so first term, if you look at here, it indicates the number of photons due to stimulated emission. No spontaneous emission term is there. The power from these photons is concentrated in one or few modes, which are contributing for the gain loss mechanism, gain mechanism of your laser. Loss is accounted by the second term. It indicates spontaneously generated photons. The power from these laser photons is not mode selective, means this is contributing for the modes which are falling below the threshold. So the first term is a gain, second term is indicating loss. So this is how we are getting the photons which are effectively contributing for the laser spot, lasing beam spot to be formed. The first term concerned with the gain and second term concerned with the loss. This is how the gain loss mechanism is going to be work out. Gain is compensated with respect to the loss here. Okay. So the remaining things we'll discuss in the next class. Let us stop.